This is The Best Defense. I'm Jamie Floyd. Well, Brent and Raynella Worthington say they acted appropriately by trying to heal their sick toddler through prayer. Oregon prosecutors disagree, and they charge the couple in the little girl's death. It's up to an Oregon jury ultimately to decide, and it took 5 days to select the jury in the case. It took the 8 men and 4 women seated on the jury just about 15 hours and 45 minutes over the course of 3 days of deliberations to reach this verdict.
In the above entitled court and cause, we, the jury, being duly impaneled to try the above entitled action, find the defendant as to count 1 not guilty of the charge of manslaughter in the second degree as filed in the indictment. Paragraph 2 reads, in the above entitled court and cause, we, the jury, being duly impaneled to try the above entitled action, find the defendant as to count 2 guilty of the charge of criminal mistreatment in the second degree as filed in the indictment. Dated this 23rd day of July, 2009, and signed by our presiding juror. In the matter of the State of Oregon plaintiff versus Raylene Marie Worthington defendant, case number 0800404, omitting the court and caption, the verdict form reads as follows. In the above entitled court and cause, we, the jury, being duly impaneled to try the above entitled action, find the defendant as to count 1 not guilty of the charge of manslaughter in the second degree as filed in the indictment. Paragraph 2 goes on, in the above entitled court and cause, we, the jury, being duly impaneled to try the above entitled action, find the defendant as to count 2 not guilty of the charge of criminal mistreatment in the second degree as filed in the indictment, dated this 23rd day of July, 2009, and signed by the presiding juror.
How about that? The jury, now we want to make a little correction, actually. They deliberated for 15 hours and 45 minutes on their first day of deliberations. The total number of deliberations were 38 hours and 25 minutes. And then, of course, we have that guilty verdict as to Brent. His given name is Carl Brent Worthington. And the wife, Jack Ford, is acquitted across the board, which comes back to this traditional marriage they have, I guess. The jury buys it, and, well, I don't want to do the analysis. You do the analysis. What do you make of this?
Traditional in a funny sense. Neither your spouse nor my spouse would say this was traditional, but one of the things that the defense for Raylene got in front of this jury was that the husband ultimately made these important decisions about treatment for the children. Now, they didn't do it as a flat-out defense saying, no, it's not us, it's him. He's the one that made the mistake here, come after him. But it was insinuated into the case.
Oh, yes, and in closing arguments, very much so.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was there without, on behalf of her saying, we did anything wrong. It was kind of, but if anybody did anything wrong, it's him, not me. But I think the 2 bottom lines, if you will here, or 2 ways to get to the bottom line. To me, the fact that they did not look like people who were not loving parents, I think, was significant. You know, we've seen some cases before where people just look bizarre and strange, and they're talking about these completely off-the-wall religious cults and concepts. And there's something about them where you say, I wouldn't trust anybody with them, much less a 15-month-old child. They truly love their child, and I think that came across when they testified. And I think the other thing that most important factually, Jamie, is that this was not a prolonged sickness and illness.
No.
It's something that came on. It was just a couple of days. There was no, you could see why they said there was no reason for us to believe that this could have been fatal, that this child was undergoing at the time. And I think that probably entered into it.
And Jack, you are always, or almost always, one to put your client on the witness stand. And here Raylene testifies. Clearly, it was the right choice.
Absolutely. And she, I think, even more so than Brent. I mean, he told his story, but there was such anguish in her testimony, and it was genuine. You know, they're genuinely sad about what happened here, and I think that was enough to make jurors say, if somebody did something wrong here, we're coming way off of the manslaughter, but maybe it's the husband we look to. Maybe the acknowledgement that they called in more people to lay on hands should have suggested it to him. There's something more serious going on here if you're calling in the troops.
I think you hit it on the head, though. No one ever thought if these parents didn't love their child, even if you might judge their choices, you don't judge them as evil people, as terribly negligent, or most significantly, criminally negligent people. Let's take it. So I think it's a win for the defense. If I'm the defense attorney, I think it's a win for the defense. But there is a conviction. Brent is convicted of something, and so therefore there is a sentence. And ultimately, on Friday, July 31st, 2009, the judge sentences Carl Brent Worthington, and here you see some video from that sentencing, to 60 days in jail, just 60 days. Now, Jack, he was facing down a possible 6 years if convicted of the top count, but he gets 60 days in jail with 5 years probation. Now, interestingly, and the family deliberately obscured some of that video, the judge did also order that the couple provide medical care and treatment for their 5-year-old daughter. And here's some news. The couple is also expecting. Yeah. And the judge requires medical attention for the child they're expecting. Now, is that the judge overstepping, or is that a reasonable sentence?
Well, I think the fact that the judge has that probation period to keep a hook in somebody allows the judge to do it. Because you could raise some issues about just what exactly is it that a judge can order as part of a sentencing. That's always something that's out there that doesn't have a lot of precise definition. But here, I think that the judge clearly was upset about the loss of life. Could have given him much more. Could have given him a year. The prosecution asked for 6 months. Judge came down to 60 days. But I think the judge probably said the more important component of my sentence is that probation. Yeah. Because at least for that period of 5 years, I can make sure that somebody's keeping an eye on these children.
I got my finger in that pie, and I'm going to keep an eye on those kids. Let's take a listen to what the district attorney's reaction was to all of this.
There's really no winner here. Our clients are not celebrating a victory. They lost their child. And that's something that's going to be a cause of sadness for the rest of their lives.
Okay, that's Mark Cogan, of course, who I thought was a terrific
Excellent lawyers, and two really good defense attorneys that they had, because difficult arguments to make inside of this courtroom, and I think they did a good job making them.
All right, let's talk about it from the DA's point of view. I'm tight on time, but what do you think? You were a prosecutor for all those years. How are you feeling?
Well, they issued a statement. DA issued a statement saying, "Look, we accept the jury's verdict. This is what we do as prosecutors." I always felt the good prosecutor said, "Fine, I've done my job. If I get a jury verdict, doesn't mean that I didn't do my job as a prosecutor. If you get a not guilty." DA said, "We respect it, we understand it, we might disagree with it, but we are going to get that out there," because they were very concerned that this has not been the first one of these cases with this religious group where there's been a death. So you can understand disappointment, but perhaps if you were concerned about sending a message, perhaps the message got out there to some extent anyway, if I'm the prosecutor.
Didn't you love this case?
It was a fascinating case. Yeah. It really, it's that intersection of personal liberties and parental responsibility and the responsibility of our government, and it was a fascinating case.
Very sad, but so interesting, these kinds of issues. Jack, such a treat to have you with us, as always. With that, the best defense will rest. And a special thank you to my friend and colleague, Jack Ford, for joining me for this verdict. Tomorrow, we've got a whole new case coming up, Jack. A case out of Colorado, a teenager charged with fatally stabbing the father of a childhood friend.
Did you stab Hans Winter?
I don't know.
Why don't you know?
I don't remember that night.
Andrew Galick claims he was too drunk to have formed the intent to murder the man. He claims treated him like a son. That's Colorado versus Galick, beginning tomorrow. I'm Jamie Floyd. Thanks for watching. See you then.
Day, beginning at 9, Ashley Banfield hosts Open Court. At 11, Jack Ford takes you courtside. And at 1, Jamie Floyd presents The Best Defense. Beginning at 9 a.m., the most comprehensive trial coverage on